Hey guys, I'm Mike.
Hey guys, I'm Sid.
I'm Parker.
I'm Jimmy, and this is the Try Hards podcast.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Try Hards podcast and to a very special episode. I think this is the first time ever we actually have two guests on. Both of the Tatums, Mike and Jimmy Tatum. They're two of my athletes, and both of them also raced at Ironman Florida last weekend, and both of them did qualify for Nice. Jimmy actually won his age group. Mike got fifth. Mike is Jimmy's dad, for those of you that are listening for the very first time. But they didn't take their slots, and today they're going to be talking about the race itself, a race recap, and they may touch on why they decided not to go to Nice next year. But I think without further ado, Jimmy and Mike, you guys want to maybe do a little short introduction for the both of you and then start talking about Ironman Florida?
Yeah, gosh. Well, thanks for having us back on, and well, I guess me back on first timer here. But yeah, I'm Jimmy. I'm one of Parker's athletes. I've been working with Park for a year and a half now, and as I may or may not have mentioned previously, I got looped in with NVDM, bit the bug, and bit it pretty hard. So now here I am, and somehow I'll turn it over to you. But it somehow convinced my dad to join on the force and get going on this crazy loop himself.
And I'm Mike, and I started with Parker a year ago, actually a year ago November. So
Yeah.
it's been 1 year, Parker. So it's been a great journey and quite a self-exploration of my own personal goals and objectives. So it's been a really blast.
And a quick fun story about how Mike Tatum came to me. So Mike reached out to me this time last year, as you just said, in November. And he said, "Hey, Parker, I'm signed up to do Ironman Florida next year. And Jimmy knows this. But I'm also, and Jimmy doesn't know this, signed up to do Ironman Texas. And I wanted to surprise him. And so pretty much for, I think, what was it until February or March of
2 or 3 weeks before, yeah.
yeah, pretty much until 3 weeks before, we had Mike training for Ironman Texas as well. And then I don't know how Jimmy found out, maybe because he was looking at his Strava and saw that I was giving him the day workouts to his dad. But eventually Jimmy found out before the race. But that's just a fun little story.
Yeah,
But
first, it's good to see you, Mike and Sage. I haven't seen you all since Houston, so it's great to see you.
Yeah, likewise. Yeah, we haven't seen each other since Texas.
Yeah.
Been a while.
sure. So you guys want to, yeah, I guess, get into the race and yeah, how it all, maybe the morning of, and just do a race recap, and I'm sure Jake or Mike said, and I will have questions for you guys.
Yeah, for sure. Well, gosh, I think my dad and I kind of both chatting about this, kind of when you have our nerves and anxiety was pretty high going into that first full, just because, you know how long the day is going to be, but you don't know what to expect. And I think we were both discussing before this one, we were much more, relaxed, calm, and just kind of knew it was going to be a tough day, but kind of knew what was coming our way at the same time. And so yeah, wake up that morning, we're both up 4 in the morning in the kitchen, kind of eating our oatmeal as we normally do. But yeah, I think just overall we're already joking and jabbing early on, so it was like, okay, we're pretty loosey goosey, ready to go. But kind of get there, do the whole morning shebang and whatever, and get start walking over to the beach. And I knew, kind of having done this previously, I think, or at least experiencing Waco, some of the Natasha had said to Gabe, go with the front pack swimmers and like swim your swim, but like don't essentially get the draft from the way faster guys and gals. but then you'll just kind of save your energy there. And that's kind of the thought process I had going into this one as well. So I seated myself in the under 60 minutes, when I was presuming to come out at 101, 102, like I did in Houston. And just kind of, gun goes off, first couple of groups. I was probably about the 5th or 6th group of 3 in the water, and get in there. And I don't know, maybe it's just back to my California roots of like just messing around in the ocean. But I was just super comfortable from start to finish. Like, got in there, got through the first few waves, and you get your stroke going a bit. And probably about, I think it was the second or third buoy in, I found a guy's feet pretty easily. And honestly, because I know I don't have to, me being more confident in it's probably a confidence thing, but better bike runner than swim bike runner. Knew I didn't have to really burn any matches, so I just legitimately rode his coattails the entire first lap. So I got to the first turn, second turn, and then found a guy that was going a little quicker than him. So then kind of went in a diagonal jump on his feet. And then it was very different. Park, I know I had asked you, but not knowing what to expect on that Aussie, Alex had also reiterated the same thing you said. She's like, yeah, get a swig of water because your mouth is going to be super salty, and you don't need to come out sprinting in the sand. And I'm like, yeah, okay. So I get out of the water, grab 2 cups, and I was just telling him about this. I was kind of laughing my butt off because I grabbed one water, get a swig, spit it out. I took the other cup of water, like dumped it on me. I'm like, why in the world did I do that? Like, I was just in the ocean. I think it was just second nature from going through the run course. You grab one, dump one on you. And I did it was like grab one, dump one on me. And I figured the people lined up on that course were just laughing at me, like, what is this bozo doing? But so then get back in the water, kind of settle back in. And I had lost a couple guys that I got out at the same time with. And I'll get back to a funny portion. But so it was kind of like swimming out on an island for a bit and saw a gal in a pink cap and just couldn't. I tried to put in a little surge to close the gap.
Compressor?
Yeah, couldn't close it. And luckily enough, somehow, I don't even know how, found a couple of guys that came up kind of right beside me, and then just kind of cruised in, settled on both of their feet, and rode with them until basically the end of it. But it was really funny because me having gone out early, I don't know what group you seated yourself in, but my mom said that as I was coming out the first lap, my dad and I, like on the tracker app, showed us going in at the same time. So he was starting his first lap, I was going in myself. And after the race, I was complaining. I was like, oh my God, the second lap was such a mess because you got all these slower age groupers right next to you. But yeah, so yeah, that was my shot. I've stopped swimming at the watch because I know it's going to put me in any mood, like good mood, bad mood. I just don't want the roller coaster. So I didn't swim with a watch, and found out on the run from Alice that I swam a 59:25, which I was super fired up about. And yeah, just couldn't be more thrilled. So then I guess if you want to talk about your swim experience.
Yeah, so when I started a year ago, as you said, Parker, originally I signed up to do Ironman Florida, and it was because my best friend in life, and we grew up 2 houses apart, he had done this race 14 years ago, and he was transforming himself over the last 3 years. He's lost over 90 pounds just through trying to get a better life. And I had given him a bike, an old bike of mine, road bike, and he said that saved his life. So I said, Paul, I'll do this race with you. So that was really a true inspiration for me to get back into doing it, and for joining him. So the 2 of us got in the corral together that morning. Well, let me go back. I arrived on Monday. So and then on 3 days before the race, the winds had gone from calm to being onshore winds. The waves were 5 foot plus sets. So it was black borderline, double black flag days. And it was they were that day when that I went down to look at the water. They actually ocean. They were doing a rescue. A guy went out and they were rescuing him. It was that crazy in terms of the conditions. So needless to say that I was probably quiet when everyone said you can do the practice swim, because I was gonna wait to see what this looks like. And if it's like that day, I'm only getting in this water one time. And but thank goodness the wind shifted, and even they announced it that morning that we were really fortunate that they became onshore winds, which put it down to 1 to 3s, maybe 1 to 2s. So it was really a better day for the swimming and all together. So the gentleman I talked about, Paul and I were in the corral together, and I remember this time to keep the suit down early and take a bottle of water and pour it down. Once you pull the suit up, pour it down right before you get in. And the lady next to me goes, "Are you peeing or are you water?" So that got us all laughing, getting to know each other. And it was her first one, so I turned to her and said, "Since it's your first, if you don't mind, I'm gonna give you one piece of advice. I'd take the timing chip and take it off your right ankle and put it on your left ankle, so it doesn't hit your derailleur or your gear, your cassettes or anything." So,
I actually didn't even know that's why they tell you to put it on your left. That's good to know. I never knew that.
oh yeah, but anyway, it was that was our kind of all getting relaxed. And as we got up there, originally, I guess when you went in, Jim, they were letting 4 swimmers in at a time. They changed it and they opened up a new lane. So Paul and I went into a new lane, and literally they said, my wife said, and our aunt, Jimmy's aunt and uncle, that all 3 of us were in the water, within like 50 meters of getting in the water, all 3 swimming side by side. It was pretty cool for them to say, "Hey, of course, Jimmy's on lap 2 and we're on 1." So the swim went really well. Couldn't be more pleased, Parker. As you know, I cut my time from Houston, from Texas. And so that was that. I didn't know it at the time, because like Jimmy, I wasn't trying to pay attention. But the run out was kind of unique, and the fact that you go down through the middle of a commerce street, on the Pier Street. And for me, that was tough because that pavement was kind of, I guess you'd call me tenderfoot. That was, I wish I had something on my feet. So I started thinking about all these others that were, people are doing like a Nice and it's got a rocky entry. How do you toughen your feet up? So it's something, for me and you to talk about, Parker. How do you toughen your feet up a little bit for those types of conditions when you have to run on pavement? You're just not used to doing that. I guess you got to practice that a little bit.
Or run faster.
Or
lower ground contact time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was a swim. So that went really well. And, the bike for me was, again, Parker, as you know, we've been working a lot on that. Had a couple of bike blocks over the summer, and I was really pleased. Caught there was I'll call him a former Clydesdale, I guess what they call those guys, big guy. And he just had it in the big ring up front and a little in the back. And I'm like, this guy's motoring. I'll just sit here behind him for a while. And so I sat, he was blocking a lot of wind. So just sat on his wheel, and, which was really great to let my heart rate come down while he was working hard as hell. And that helped out immensely. And that for me was really important, because you and I you'd stress that, get your heart rate to come down. And so I was able and fortunate to do that. And then had in my early days being there, I watched what you guys were doing in Kona. So I went on the elevation map and saw that from mile 60 to 80 in Florida was the greatest elevation change we'd experienced. So one day I'd gone out there and I had rode that section. So I knew that when I got to, in the ride, throughout the ride, just say, get to 60 to 80, you know what's going to go on, where you're going to have the wind and when you're going to have the wind at your back. And that was really, getting a chance to preview the course, actually get on it and preview it, was immensely helpful. And I learned that from you all at Kona.
But yeah, I had texted these guys. I was like, you got to love your dad doing course recons for you while I did things. So
getting all the inside info.
Yeah. So I got the added benefit of not being there, but getting the info. But yeah, then I guess for me, getting on the bike, I was kind of crazy. I say I swam really smoothly, but got on the bike and my heart rate was already, I was not a couple miles in and I was already chilling at 165. I was like, damn, like that swim, like I just took really easy, and it really helped getting the drag off, the faster swimmers. But kind of get in, settle in, do my thing. And I get out to, mile 15-ish, and I had passed a guy, and then I take a quick peek back because I was like, maybe we can get something going. And he's just riding my coattails. And I'm like, okay, buddy, like I'm not giving you a free tow. So I kind of barked at him, used some language I will not repeat out loud, but long story short, get to a turn, and I had dropped him a good ways, and then had another guy come up on me, and funny enough, he finished right behind me at the end of the race, but his name was Jack, and Jack and I started working together. And I feel like I have to put the disclaimer out these days, just with all these triathlon gurus. If we were drafting legally, we had a referee come up and carded neither of us. So, but we started we talked about doing 5-minute trade-offs. And so we did that. And I forgot where we were exactly, maybe mile 30, 35, somewhere in there. Cause we had started working together about 20-ish. He's like, I got you for one more pull. I was like, wow, thank you. And so as I went by him, I said, thank you, good luck. And so basically my entire ride was just kind of solo. And at that 70-mile turnaround, so for all those that know Ironman Florida, 70 is kind of the turnaround to kind of head back towards the coastline. And basically you're kind of on a homeward bound. Just started like seeing I was like, okay, I started seeing the leader was way out in front. And then I was a little frustrated by 2 through 5. I told him that they were a little close, and I wish the ref had kind of gone up to their group, because I started calling my group Chase Pack 2 in my head as I was out there. And then I just kept counting. I don't know why. I was like, I'm kind of having a good day. Let me start counting. And at that point I had counted in my head. I think I was in like 12th or 13th somewhere overall. And I was like, okay, let me just start picking people off one by one, because I wasn't like pushing more than I should have or less, and was just feeling good. And then I just kept doing it. And I don't know, maybe I got in my head too much, but I was like, let me get myself into top 10 going off the bike, into my strongest discipline of the 3, and seemingly had done that. And I thought I had executed my nutrition like to a T. Like I was like, okay, this is gonna be a good day. Like I'm Park, and everyone, I mean, all 3 of y'all know that I really wanted to go sub 3. I know it's a big goal of yours, Park.
Tell me about it.
Kind of on me too. So really wanted that sub 3. I was like, this is gonna be a great course to do it. It's gonna be 80 degrees. Like I training hotter than that. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do really well. And my run legs had gone well up to it. So get off the bike, start running well. Like didn't think I was running too hot.
And really quickly, what was your nutrition? I guess Mike, you can also answer this, but what was your nutrition on the bike? When you say it was going well, like what were your grams, carbs, and?
I was 120 for the first 4 hours, and then 70 on that last 50 minutes, because I tried to give my stomach, if I remember correctly, I thought I had given it 15 to 20 minutes where I took my last gel and let it settle going into T2. And then, get out onto the run. And I think I just looked today, I was like 6:45 through the first 2.2, which probably in hindsight was a little hot. I probably could have started coming off at like 7:15. But even at that 6:45 pace, I didn't feel like I was really overexerting myself. Kind of went down the ways, and then I forgot where I was exactly. But my stomach, I was just like, I started having really, really bad GI issues. So in the past, I had gone to like ice down the kit to try and press against the stomach with one hand as I'm running with the other to try and let it settle, and just do water. Got Coke at a couple of aid stations to try and like settle it a bit, and nothing went right. So then I saw Alice a little further down the road, and I basically like barked out to her, like, I got GI issues, like what should I do? And she and then Kim, I don't know, I'm gonna probably butcher the pronunciation on the last name, Doutrick, I think. They both basically said back off the carbs. So that's then what I started to do. And once I started to do that, it was like waters through aid stations. And then I got to the point where I just had like, went from like carved up to like no carbs. And I basically was hanging on by, I got to mile, 15, 16-ish. And just like, I was just lights on, no one's home kind of thing. And basically just like praying, get me to the end.
Stadium pulse from NCAA.
So then I saw a couple of people out on the course, and even started chatting with some folks doing their first lap. And I even asked one guy, I was like, hey, do you mind if I just chat with you as we run together just for a bit to take my mind off things? And he did. And so then, long story short, took it home, and ended up winning the age group, and knew a couple of folks had passed me to unfortunately not get that top 10, but still finish 14th, which was pretty damn remarkable.
And is this the first time that you've ever raced without getting a flat?
Yeah. Second, but yes. So that was obviously a plus of getting through the bike with the wheels still intact, because that's been pretty demoralizing in the past. So, but yeah.
And for you guys, for my fueling strategy, I actually used, I didn't go with a super bottle. I was using gels, but during the transition, I'd pre-set up for my transition bag, a raw, bottle with raw in it for, while sitting in transition. So that was drinking some there. I was basically between 100 and 110 carbs per hour, which actually really worked well. And then in my water bottles, I was running my electrolytes. So that's where I was getting my electrolytes from that point, and then using and supplementing everything with the gels. So for me, that worked out really well. Like I said, so about 100 and 110 per hour. And when I came off the bike, it was great to transition to get ready to run. And you can't imagine, I can only share with you all this, and I hope that you all have the opportunity with your father or a brother or a family member that's close to you, or someone who means a lot to you. You can only imagine when you're at like your third or fourth mile in the run, and all of a sudden you hear this big boisterous guy go, "Dad!" and your son's coming the other direction, and just stop, come here, and just gives you a big old sweaty, salty bear hug. As gross as it is, it's really meaningful as a father to see that. And Alice was riding with Jimmy.
But if I don't mind interjecting, like, okay, he's gonna give the sentimental side, I'm gonna give the funny side to this. Is I try to give him a hug, but he like basically kind of like pushed me out of the way because he was in a freight train going down, and he's like, I'm just motoring on. So it was like one of these.
I was more than that, but anyway. It gives you that emotional perk and gets you going again. And Allison came back up. She was Alice Alberts, who is another NVDM, as you all know, pro and coach. And she was with Jimmy, and then she came back up to me and said, what Jimmy's lead was, and that he was going to win his division. And that really was just, again, a great perk and catch you going. And actually, I've got another runner behind me came up later on and said, I heard about your son. Congratulations. So it's amazing how much those things pick you up. And Parker, I definitely have to do some run blocks because you can start to see where my I hope people didn't confuse my running for walking, but it was my pace definitely slowed down. But I was really proud to say that I improved from Texas over an hour and 20 minutes across all three disciplines. So that for me, I look at what the real wins were, and then what can I grow to, where can I continue to grow and improve? And I know I need to continue to improve on the fueling strategy, improve on the transitions, and then running, all the disciplines, but running needs to be a really good focus for me also.
And I will say, I think now, because you're from Arizona, correct?
That is correct. Yes.
Yeah, and we think Texas is hot, but I know from what you've been telling me, it just, when it's 100 degrees by 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning, it's definitely challenging to get those long runs in. So that's why I'm, especially for you, I'm excited for this winter, because I think with it being cooler, we can definitely do some like longer sets outside without having to worry too much about the heat getting to you before the muscle fatigue and the cardiovascular fatigue sets in.
Yeah, well, it's that and the other creatures. Because I know I posted a couple times some pictures of the rattlesnakes that were going down one at late in the evening at dusk, and you're having to like, is that a stick? And you're like, oh, that's a 6-foot rattlesnake, and stretched out across there. So your run's a little bit different. So I too am looking forward to running this in this season for the gaining more running blocks. So.
Yeah, Mike, Said, do you guys have any questions?
Yeah, for Jimmy. So it started to get hard for you around mile, what was it, 15, 16 you were saying?
Yeah, somewhere in there.
And like other than dialing back carbs, was there anything like you were thinking about at that point? And did you know at that you probably knew at that point you were first in age group, right?
Yeah, I was told I was first in the age group getting off the bike by Lloyd's wife. I was like, oh crap, like I didn't really expect that. But was I thinking about anything? I was yeah, I had a lot of why am I doing this moments out there.
Yeah.
So yes, that question definitely popped into my head at one point. But no, like honestly, I think it was my first time kind of being out, I'll call it the front, and you definitely feel the energy from the crowds and the people. So I think it was in a sense kind of lonely out there until like the more runners started coming around on their first lap, and then you kind of got fueled off that a bit. But I don't know, like my mind just went to like every dark place imaginable. I can't even describe it. I'm like, geez, I don't have to do that again.
Was there a point though after that? Like what point did things start to, I guess, brighten up a little bit for you? Was it like mile 26 or was it like mile 24? Like, did it get a little bit better?
I think it was yeah, it was probably mile 25 because that's where the crowd started going back into the finish line, and you kind of got to fuel off that, and you're like, okay, you know, I can get to home from here, and you know, at that point, there's no stop. You're not going to stop in front of the people and walk as much as I had done that previously. But no, yeah, that mile 25 for sure.
And did you ride tubeless tires this time?
I did. I took everyone's advice and
Good.
rented some tubeless tires, and yes, they paid off. They paid dividends. So I was pumped.
Very good.
And now, did you notice that when you started backing off the carbs on the run, did that help your stomach? Do you think? Like, do you think that's what was causing like your? Because I'm a little surprised by that, because not just have you been really doing, you know, the 100 to 120 grams per carbs per hour on the bike, but also for all your runs, you've been nailing that too. So
yeah,
you've been that.
Yeah, that's why I'm like I'm not entirely sure what happened, because when I did back off the carbs, you know, I started to feel okay for a bit, and then probably backed off too much.
Or do you think it could have been sodium? I know when I struggled with cramps in Kona, stomach cramps, it was because I took in too much sodium, I think, at once.
Interesting. I think I had gone to one of the raw bottles, but like had just, you know how like they're sometimes hard on the top?
Yeah.
They bit off to where it was like I got next to nothing out of it. So yeah, it was kind of a crazy thing. But yeah, backed off and started to feel good, and then looked at my watch, and I had kind of worked back down to 7:15-ish miles. I'm like, okay, like this is comfortable. I know I can hold this for a marathon pretty easily. And then yeah, just it slowly just started getting worse and worse. And then I just was like, I'd walk after 8 stations. It got that bad. And it was like I said, lights on, no one's home.
We've all been there.
Yeah.
So, for Mike, you were racing with your friend, right? You were saying that, or did he only race Texas?
No, he did Florida 14 years ago and had not done a triathlon until April. He did a little Olympic in April, and then he in Florida to do it for the second time. So his name is Paul. Good guy.
How did he do?
To me, Paul was the Ironman of the day. So when I'm on my just about to finish my first lap, I heard Paul was struggling, and I saw him. He was 1 mile into his run, and I'm about to get to the 13-mile turnaround. He at mile 85 got sick. Now, long story short, he lived on an island called Anna Maria, which was hit by the first hurricane. And in his house, he had like a foot of water, 4 feet on the outside, and he stayed at the house and he was trying to get out. So he was walking across the street in chest high water to get to higher ground, or a home that had three levels. So he lost his air conditioning and refrigerator. It had none of that for the entire time. But so he got sick at mile 85, one of those where you just, projectile vomiting on the bike and just, you're just trying to keep going. So he unfortunately lost all of his electrolytes. And but I saw him on his first mile 12. And I said, or somewhere in that area, just said, keep going, Paul, keep going. Passed him a second time and said the same thing. Well, it's so fortunate he finished 7 minutes and 16 seconds under the 17-hour commitment. So, and my wife and Jimmy's aunt went out and met him, and my aunt ran alongside him to keep him motivated for that last mile and a half, just to keep him going. And that really spurred him on to finish. So, pretty amazing, to have your buddy do that. He also said, "Don't let me sign up for another one of these." So that was the humor behind it. But there's so many great stories going on out there. Besides the great athletes like yourselves, all running up near the front, there's a lot happening at the back. And there are a lot of people with great human interest stories. And there was a guy that they're going along, and you just see him getting. Going through all the adversity and Mike, to your question, you go to some dark points, and when I was going dark, I kept saying, hey, there are other people out here, they're hurting too, just as bad as you are. You just keep going. You're not the only one hurting. You just kind of remind yourself that every competitor is hurting in some way, personally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, and just keep working at it yourself, and you'll find your breakthrough. And like Jimmy, you get closer to that area, and the run around 24, 25, somewhere in there is where the crowds were back. And, you see the little kids out at night just saying, hey, go, you're doing great. And, these little high pitched boy voices. And it really, it pumps you up to, to continue to pick your pace back up and push through whatever you're feeling, and knowing that the pain's temporary, but the reward's a lifetime. So for me, it was a great experience.
Yeah, I think that's one of the best parts about Ironman. It is like kind of that mental battle, because like it's inevitable. It's gonna happen at some point during your race. It's gonna get dark. I mean, in a 70.3 or an Olympic, like sure that can happen, but it's not quite the same as what you would experience in a full. And then it's kind of like Jimmy was saying on the swim, like you didn't want to go through like the peaks and valleys, which I think is actually a pretty good move, to like not bring the watch during the swim. Like I like the data, so I probably will continue to swim with my watch, but maybe I'll turn off the auto lap feature so I don't have to like think about like, oh, you just hit 500 yards, like, and not be tempted to look at my watch. But I think like the farther you can delay that those like dark moments from coming in the race, like the better that your race is probably going. And then when you get to that point, it's like, how long is it going to take me to get through this and like start feeling good again, or like be positive, shake like the negative thoughts. And it's something that even no matter how well prepared you are, like my first race had some dark moments, but they went away kind of quickly. Second race, like much different story. Like it was like the whole second half of the run. So like I would have thought it would have been the reverse. Like the first race would be harder. Second race would be maybe a little bit easier mentally, but you just never know what's going to happen.
True. Very, very well said.
Yeah, I can completely relate with that, Mike. I had my first race at Florida last year, which went pretty well, and Texas was complete blow up, and then Maryland was a lot better. So what do you guys have next planned for next season? Or are you guys just taking a break now, or still thinking about it? Or
Yeah, it's funny that you ask because we, drove back yesterday and we're sitting in the car and granted, both chatting to each other, kind of like what we're doing now, talking about the race and stuff, which was just a lot of fun. But yeah, started planning out next year, and we're like, like I'm like, Dad, I'm thinking Oceanside, like early in the year would be really cool because kind of I grew up just north of there, and obviously he raised me out there, but he also used to live down that way when he was roughly my age. I'm like, that'd be a lot of fun. And I know he wants, I don't mean to speak for you, but wants to experience a 70.3. I was like, yeah, it's a lot, not easier, but it's a lot easier on everything. Like your recovery is quicker. It's not as big on Saturdays.
Yeah.
70.3 is not even I was joking in my prep to for Kona. There'd be some weekends I look at what Natasha gave me. I'm like, man, I just wish I'd be racing at a half instead. What I'm doing on Saturday. It would be definitely a lot easier, and I know I'd feel a lot better on the next day.
Well, Parker, you'll be glad to know I'm committed because I keep breaking surprises out for Jimmy, like for Texas showing up. And for this one, I didn't tell him. And I had bought a new Speed Concept from Trek Speed Concept with Project One and new SRAM Red. So I'm committed to more races. I'm not going to spend.
That makes me very happy, but also very jealous. That's my after I'm making myself wait until after Nice to get myself, but the Trek is the one I want. So I'm definitely going to be living I know Jimmy will be too, but living vicariously through you for the next year.
Well, I can tell you, he was I don't know how to just politely say this, but he had his eyeballs all over my bike quite a bit. And every time I'm out in the garage, he's got it out, and he's already out there riding it just up and down the street. So
making sure it works.
Yeah, out for.
Yeah, so probably say back to your question, probably gonna do some primarily 70.3s next year with the intent of doing Ironman Arizona, which my dad and mom live 30 minutes north of the Tempe there. So try and use that to go qualify for Kona.
Huge.
Yeah, that gets back to one of the things you asked in the beginning. Why? For Jimmy, he earned a slot. I was fortunate that one rolled to me for Nice. And since they start with the older athletes first, so Jimmy knew I had already said no. And I told him later on, I said what really became the motivation for that was, one, it's always been a dream since I was a little kid before you guys even were born. When I was a kid, I got to see on Wide World of Sports the delayed version of the Ironman, but it was always showing it at Kona. So for me, seeing it at Kona and that birthplace, and I can't imagine for you, Parker, what it was like to come down a Lee Drive, but I can still remember when Richard and Dick Hoyt did the their first one over there, and got to watch it on, like I said, Wide World of Sports, and then subsequent shows, seeing them there and other athletes. And of course, the most famous of them all, Mark Allen, and some of those races.
Scott.
Scott, and those were great motivation. So for me, it was. I wanted one. I'd love to earn my slot. I'll be honored to take a roll down slot for Kona, but I want to earn one if possible. And it's not if possible, when possible. And set my mind to that, and really continue to improve this year. As Jimmy said, with the culmination, I think in Arizona, to really lay it all on the line for that opportunity in my age group.
I love it, and I definitely know how that feels. I know I got a roll down slot to Kona, I think back in Arizona too in 2022 or 2023, and it doesn't feel the same when you like get a roll down slot versus when you're in it. So 100%. Yeah, that's very excited to see both of you guys 100% can earn that slot to Kona, and I'm very excited to be working with you guys for this next year. It's going to be a lot of fun, especially on that brand new Trek of yours. So we can shave 20 minutes off your bike time right now.
Love it.
Yeah.
What color did you get in the Trek?
I got the project custom, the black one with the I forget what they call the inlay inside of it. When you look at it, some ways it looks purple in there, some ways it looks kind of green.
That's not.
It's pretty cool.
That's sweet.
I thought he showed up and had a surprise for me. He's like, no, he's like,
hey, can you look at this?
Christmas came early.
That's funny. Yeah.
Hey, I wanted to make one more comment too about something Jimmy said earlier. With your goal, Jimmy, to go sub 3 in an Ironman, and like you casually mentioned, you're like, yeah, it was like only 80 degrees, and I train in a lot hotter than that. Like, just to go out and do the marathon in an Ironman when it's 80 degrees and not be like concerned with that temperature is pretty crazy, considering this weekend was the New York City Marathon. The temperatures at the start were about 40 degrees, and then like later in the day I went for a run and it was like maybe 56, which is like these are like perfect marathon temperatures. And like I remember I was talking to someone that morning about the race, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I did it a few years ago and it was like 70 degrees and it was just terrible." It's like, wow, like that sucks. Like, I mean, like every Ironman is like almost like you're almost guaranteed to be over like 65, 70 degrees, but then like 80 degrees, oh, that's brutal.
it's funny you say that because I do, trust me, I can relate 100% that 45 is like perfect running weather, but 45 sounds freezing to me. So I'm like,
Yeah.
no thanks.
Yeah, like it's gotten to the point up north now where it's like, oh, like do I wear like a long sleeve shirt when I run, or like should I start putting tights on?
Mm. Well, there's one more question we have to ask you, as we do with all post-race recaps. What was the post-race meal of choice? Or did you guys go out? What did you guys have either that night or the day after when you had more time, I guess?
Let's talk about the day after. So we go to there's a diner in town the next morning, which my family of 4, so mom, dad, brother, myself, and then my aunt, uncle, and cousin were all there supporting us on. And we all go to the diner because I'm like, this looked like an old school diner, it just looked delicious. Long story short, what I ordered, granted this is 10:30 in the morning, a chocolate milkshake, chocolate chip pancakes, what else? There was something else, bacon, and I had a cup of coffee. But I was like, yeah, I don't even care right now. Just give it to me all.
Actually, everyone at the table had or some type of milkshake, and it's those the old fashioned ones. They're spun with the ice cream. I mean, they are rich. And they were fantastic. And that's something I just also want to just call out. Those that are there supporting you, they're doing a hell of a lot of work too. It's a long day for them, and when you got family members and friends and supporting you there, it is great to have them. It's great to see them, but you don't realize how much they're doing. I mean, they say they realize how much you're working once they're there, but Jimmy's brother and cousin, they were all day drinking. I mean, that's a hard thing to do. You got to, you're starting at about 9 in the morning. Just a lot of, my wife, Jimmy's mom, I think they put in 20-something thousand steps just carrying our backpacks, taking them to the car, putting stuff away, and just can't need to give a shout out to all the Sherpas that the sport crew for each of our teams. So, but yeah, pancakes, chocolate shakes were definitely in there, and they were great. Actually, I even ate my breakfast.
You didn't finish your pancakes.
Yeah, well, I fixed the shake.
He's getting ready for next year. Yeah. Well, yeah, I think that pretty covers everything. You guys got anything else?
No. Appreciate this is coming from me. He hears me talking about you guys all the time, but huge shout out to you guys. I mean, you may or may not know, but you guys push me day in and day out for sure. Even when I'm having some tough days and don't want to do the bike workout that Parker has given me.
That's y'all's group chat, so it's kind of fun. Jimmy goes, "You won't believe what we're talking about today," but Parker, it's from me to you. Real heartfelt. I just can't thank you enough for what you've done to help me get to where I am. And to really help me become a better competitor and a better person. And I'm forever indebted.
I could say the same about you guys. That is 100%. You guys would be surprised at how much I'm always shocked that you guys can actually do the stuff I give you. Then I realize, oh, I better show up now. So it goes both ways, that's for sure. But yeah, I think that's gonna, yeah, Mike, one more thing.
One last parting question for Jimmy and Mike. I don't know if you've done these workouts or not, but Jimmy, what's harder, an Ironman or the 40-20s workout?
40-20.
I know which one is harder to me.
Without a doubt. I don't know how State crushes them all the time. And I'm like, I'm super jealous over here. I'm like, God, I get this thing.
Yeah, and I thought going in today, I was like, oh, I'm gonna one up Say by a little bit and push like 5 more watts than him just to like make a point. Failed after 4, and I was like, yeah, no, like I'd rather do an Ironman tomorrow morning than do the 40-20s again.
Couldn't agree.
I don't know what they are. Haven't done them yet. So
don't you worry. Don't you worry. Just wait. We'll wait till you're a little bit recovered and ready to get back at it. Then yeah, you'll be wishing you're back in Panama City. All right, that's gonna do it, I think. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. Yeah, always a great time chatting with Jimmy, especially when his bikes don't blow up. So yeah, congrats again to both of you, and we'll definitely see you guys in Kona eventually. And yeah, I guess we'll catch you guys in the next one.
Yep, that was great. Finally.
Thanks, guys.
And congrats, Jimmy, once again. That's huge. Coming first, 25-29. It's big accomplishment. That's awesome.
Appreciate it. You guys have a good one.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Try Hard podcast. If you enjoyed it, we'd appreciate it if you could share with others and leave us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. If you have any questions or comments for us, you can either DM us on Instagram, leave a comment on YouTube, or message us through the Spotify app. Lastly, I'd like to thank the sponsor of this week's episode, the Naperville Acupuncture Center. If you ever find yourself in the Chicagoland area and are dealing with some aches and pains, I cannot recommend Frank and Angela enough. They do an amazing job over there, and I promise you will leave feeling so much better. Thanks again for listening, and we'll catch you guys back here next week.